Hey, what's up? Well, it's your boy Damien, BlackOpps Entertainment, BlackOpps the podcast. We are here in the building once again. Hey, we're at the beautiful Crush Studios. Man, it's good to see you guys. I hope you guys are having a great. Hope you had a great weekend. As you know, this podcast will drop on Monday morning. So, we always try to get it done, during the weekend. And, hope everybody had enjoyed their weekend. And they get to hear this podcast on their way to work. Get them primed up for the work day, for the work week. And hopefully this will add to your day. And if this doesn't, I got somebody in the studio who just might, all right? I got somebody in the studio who just might. I've known this guy for a minute. He's a good, solid brother. But let me tell you just a little bit about the man's credentials, all right? He's an acclaimed business leader, entrepreneur, artist, author, poet, and community activist. He lives and works in the beautiful city of Durham, North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Dr. Eric Kelly III. That was a mouthful, brother.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Man.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you being on the show. It's been a minute because I know you were doing your thing. Trust and believe, people. This brother, he barely stands still. He got a lot going on. All the things I've named were just some of the things that he does. Dude, I don't know where to start with you.
Well, the place that I always start is 4 years old.
Now, we ain't going to go back that far. But I think I know where it's going, so I'm going to let you go ahead and do that.
Well, the only reason I say 4 years old is that's the day that I picked up an ink pen in church and began to draw. And that drawing has led me to be the guy that I am today, to be an artist and to be a businessman. Mm-hmm. So I always said it started at 4 years old when my great-grandfather talked to me about what I wanted to be. And he wanted me to be a lawyer. And every day walking from Scarborough Nursery School, we would stop at the courthouse. And at the courthouse, that was his thing. He would go in there and sit down and watch what's going on in the courthouse.
Yeah.
And, in those days, we had 3 channels of TV. So I guess this was like TV for him, his entertainment. And so he said, every family needs a lawyer. Something he said back there when I was, I would say about 6 or 7, that's true today. Every family needs a lawyer because you need to know the law. Yeah. He brought those big giant books into my bedroom because I was staying with him at the time. We stayed. For those who know a little bit about Durham, you know where 40 is. Some people will know where with the Exxon that used to be called Spates is. Mm-hmm. We stayed right in the middle of the proposed highway that they moved through our black neighborhoods.
Yes, they did.
And so he brought those big books into my bedroom and said, I want you to be a lawyer. And I said, Papa, I don't want to be a lawyer. And he said, well, what you going to be? And I said, I want to be an artist. And he said, if you're going to be an artist, where your artwork at? You see, old people ain't playing the
Show
game.
and prove, baby. You better show and prove.
What we doing, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened was I went over to my bed and I pulled out my papers because I had to start drawing. And I was showing him the work. And he said, I'll be back. And so he walked out the room. And it was about a month later, he came back and he said, I still want you to be a lawyer. But if you want to be an artist, then you need to have a museum. And so at 7 years old, my great-grandfather started a museum for me, which is going on from then until today.
All right.
So it's been a great journey. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've learned along the way, he used to say there are 5 things that you need to do. Mm-hmm. He said, number 1 is to think. He said, number 2 is to research. He said, number 3 is to be relentless. Number 4 is to have energy, because many times you can be relentless, but you have no energy. Yeah. And he said number 5, which he said could be number 1, is to listen. Mm-hmm. And always be listening to learn, not be listening to talk, but be listening to learn. And so my great-grandfather, I talk about him a lot. I talk about him in my upcoming book. Okay. But
hold on. Is that an exclusive upcoming book? Hold on now. We ain't going to just gloss over that. That's what the podcast is for. What are we talking about?
The name of the book is called Human Landscapes.
Okay.
And it's about the way that I paint. and I paint pictures, and I use color for emotions, and I use lines for landscapes in your face to say how you have aged or how you have what you're actually thinking about. And so that's kind of what that book is about. And also inside the book, I talk about my grandmother. I was raised by my grandmother, not because my mother didn't want me, but because my mother had asthma so bad she couldn't work every day.
Right.
And so there was a choice. Either me go stay with my father or me go stay with my grandmother. And so my grandmother went to Washington, D.C. and got me and brought me back to Hamlet, North Carolina, and then to Durham, North Carolina, where I spent, my I would say my upbringing.
Your formative years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, when I was when I was brought to Durham, it was unbelievable what I got from Durham that kind of formed who I am today.
We're going to touch on that, brother, because we got that in common, because I'm originally from Providence, Rhode Island. And when we came to Durham, you're right. Well, mine was a little bit more traumatic, but I learned so much being here, and that's why I am where I am right now. But, so we're going to change this a little bit, because I know everyone knows you as the artist. Your work is prevalent. We're going to touch on it, and we're going to probably really get into it. I don't know if y'all can see the easel behind it, but we'll talk about that later. I want you to talk about, and I know I'm gonna be jumping all over the place, but and you could say, you know what, I don't want to talk about that if you want to. I want to take it back to the whole model agency thing.
Wow.
Yeah, I do a little homework. I do a little homework, bro. You know me.
Well, it really wasn't. Well,
Don't say what it wasn't.
It was a young man who opened up an advertising agency and began to look at how this whole identity thing and people person kind of thing was. When I was in high school, I was probably one of the most popular guys in high school because I was a people person. And so I won the best artist of the state of North Carolina by the Durham Lynx, and got an art scholarship to North Carolina Central University. And when I went into my meeting with my counselor, I asked him how much money were artists going to make, and so he said that as an artist, as a art education, because I wanted to go in art education, you wouldn't make a lot of money. And so I said, well, how much money can you make? And then he said, well, art education, $40,000 to $50,000 a year as a teacher and 3 months off. So I'm like, okay, that sounds all right. Then he said I could go into fine arts. And then I said, I don't want to go into fine arts. And then he said, you can go into advertising and you can write your own ticket. So I changed my major to visual communication. So when I graduated from school, I didn't have any money. And my great-grandfather said, think. And so I decided to go and sell cars to make enough money to open up an advertising agency, which morphed into the whole modeling thing. And I was able to become a world-renowned photographer, shooting for places like Black Enterprise Magazine, Urban Journal, the Carolina Times, the Triangle Tribune, and for Delta Airlines.
Okay.
Delta
cool.
Airlines was my sponsor. I was shooting Black Enterprise way back in the day. As a matter of fact, I was the photographer who shot the Million Man March in front of the stage. All of the other photographers shot back on the risers.
Oh, okay.
I was lucky enough to be a friend of a gentleman by the name of Bill Cherry. Bill Cherry was the Minister Farrakhan's best friend. They grew up in Chicago together. And Bill was my mentor, my best friend. And so I had an opportunity to be on stage. But the one thing I want listeners to always remember, being on stage is not always the place.
Yep.
You have to understand that the people on stage sometimes are really making history. Who's going to cover
Capture
history?
that history.
And so I had my camera that day. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at some of the videos when they were setting up, and we were under the White House, because we walked out where Barack was inaugurated.
Yeah.
We walked out from under there, and Bill was like, "Well, where you gonna stand?" I was like thinking about the Martin Luther King march and how every time you see the Martin Luther King, you got the brothers standing up there and they be all posing and carrying. And I was like, I'll be standing right beside you, Bill, because it was going to be the minister, and it was going to be his son, and then it was going to be Bill. They were doing all the setup, and then there was going to be Eric Kelly III.
All right, Eric Kelly III.
And I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. But I was standing there. We was getting ready, and I was standing there, and something inside of me said, "Why do you have a camera? Why do you part of the press. Why do you have a camera?" And so I shimmied off the stage, and if you look at the Million Man March, if you go back and look at those tapes, you'll see the Fruit of Islam who was the circle around the minister and everything.
Right.
And inside of that circle was one black boy.
I'm gonna go back and look at that.
And it was me taking pictures. And as a matter of fact, another exclusive, we're going to be publishing the Million Man March photos that I did.
I was about to ask you that.
I've been kind of holding things close to chest, because I have some very sensitive stuff that I've shot. You know, when Bill Clinton and his wife came to North Carolina Central University, I was the only black photographer there. These are things people don't even know about, because I'm not the guy that runs and say I'm doing all these great things. As my great grandfather used to say, great people don't talk about being great. Great people do great things.
Right.
And so I've always
let others talk about it.
Yes. And so I've always pushed the envelope of doing things. And when you get to that whole modeling piece, it was a part of the Kelly Worldwide advertising agency that was on Black Wall Street, on Paris Street, back in the day. We were there for 10 years, and that morphed from the advertising agency, morphed from the Black Business Expo that I started back in 1990 with my grandmother, who was the original architect of it, that I really did not believe in it. As a matter of fact, I took it to the Black Data Processing Organization. I was their
I was almost part of that.
Yeah, I was their fundraising chair. And so my grandma was telling me about it, and I was like, Grandma, because you're young and you think you're taking over the world. Grandma, really? And so I took it to them, and because the president it wasn't the president's idea, he first said, yeah, we're going to do it. And then I told him, we need $400 for the ballrooms. Back in the day, it was the Omni, not the Marriott that is today. And we went on 2 months before he came to the meeting and said him and the board of directors decided not to do it. And I'm like, I'm part of the board of directors. I wasn't in the meeting. And so the crazy part was this was really the first time somebody had, to me, promised something in business I had never experienced. We're not going to do it. Right. I've always experienced, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, how we're going to do it, how we're going to get to the end.
So and of course I know that was disheartening, like, well, wait a minute, it's a great idea. So did you just take no for an answer, or did you do something else?
Well, I did the great-grandfather thing. Like I tell you, think first. And so I went to my office, and my brother comes into the office, and he said, what's going on, man? I have like what I would say brothers who are not my mother's kids, but we're brothers. Yeah. And
brother from another mother.
Yes, that I was raised with. And so, and Fred, he's going up, Fred Mills.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred that played with Sweet Dreams. Me and Fred call each other brothers. Fred and there's another guy that looks like me, Linwood Green. And so we were talking, and they asked me, and they said, so what's wrong? Because when I get upset, it's on the shoulder. You see it all over your face.
Yes, I know.
And so we were talking, And so Fred said, well, hey, man, how much money do you need for the show? I said, well, I've already raised over $7,000 for the show, because once I say I'm going to do something, I start doing it. I set up a bank account, the whole nine, and I'm raising money, and I'm talking to my friends. I'm doing the Black Business Expo. I doing a tabletop show, and I'm thinking I'm doing this thing. And he said, well, what you going to do with the money? And then Linwood said, wait a minute, man. You got 7? How much for the ballrooms? I said, well, $400. He said, you already made a profit, ain't you? And I said, I hadn't thought about it like that. And then
really?
I hadn't, because it was not my money. You got to understand, I was doing this as a fundraising guy for Black Data Processor. I'm a loyal guy, so my mind is thinking loyalty to them at that moment. So I hadn't thought about.
But they said no.
What? Well, even with them saying no,
well, wait a minute. Did you procure that money, that money that was donated, under the guise of the Black Data Processors?
No. Great grandfather.
I don't see the problem.
Listen,
what's the problem?
It turned out well because my great grandfather said, think. So I knew that if I did it, nobody knew this thing was going to work. First of all, okay. So
you did.
Well,
that's where it starts.
So I said, I'm just going to set it up in a way. Once we do it, I can say, here's y'all's money, okay. But Eric Kelly still needed to be paid. I got to be paid. If I do something, I have to be paid first. And I think people need to begin to think about that. No matter what you're doing, you need to get paid first. And my great-grandfather used to say, you need to get paid always first. And my grandmother used to say, stand up for yourself. So I set it up so that I could get paid for all the work that I was doing. But I still, once we do the show,
come a little bit closer to the mic, or bring the mic closer to you.
Once we do the show, then whatever you're supposed to get. But anyway, so then we decided, once we looked at the numbers, I might as well go ahead and do the Black Business
Okay,
Expo.
So there you go. Here we go. See, that's what I'm trying. I know you went the Eric Kelly way, and I understood that, and I expected that. But one of the other areas, and like I said, you touched on a little bit the modeling thing, but I'm trying to figure out a delicate way of bringing it up, and see if you'll latch on to it, so I won't have to say, you'll be like, oh, I know what you're talking about. Not just the modeling thing, and then you had the Black Business Expo, but there was a way where they kind of intersect, and it turned into something else, I heard. And then you were doing that, and then that became something else.
Well,
you know what I'm talking about.
You got me confused.
Okay, so you were doing this thing, bringing women together, and women were having a good time.
Yes, I know. You're talking about women's empowerment.
Well, I didn't say that.
Well,
allegedly.
Well, no.
I'm talking about what you were. Was it called that when you were doing it?
This. Let me give you the story.
Okay.
Let me give you the whole story, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Oh, we say allegedly.
Well, we can do allegedly,
okay.
But what happened with John Broomfield, who was the GM.
Okay, let's not give a whole bunch of names.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, at one time, there was 97 and there was 107 radio stations. And these two radio stations control the Black community. And so if you were doing an event, in those days, I pitted 97 against 107 to get me advertising dollars, okay, and get me free advertising to do my event. My event was the #1 Black event in the state of North Carolina. We were doing 300 booths with some 5,000 to 6,000 people coming. This was way before everybody else decided they want to do expos and all those things.
Right.
And so 97 had a project called Women's Empowerment. And what Women's Empowerment was, it was I want to say a conference. It really was women coming together and going down to the old Civic Center, not the new Civic Center, but the old Civic Center, to have a speaker and women to come to that event.
Was it called Women's Empowerment then?
Yes.
And who was that yours or was that someone else?
No. That was the radio station's Women Empowerment.
We want to talk about just yours.
Okay.
We're not talking about women's empowerment. We want to just focus on your thing.
Well, this is how it became my thing. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So
allegedly, I have to say that.
Allegedly. So, and I have the pictures, and we're doing a book on that so that we can get the allegedly out of
it. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened was, and I did already say his name. The GM came to me and said, "I want to do something like the Black Business Expo. I want to have booths. I want to have people to come. I want to have entertainment. I want it just like what you're doing." And I said to him, "How much you gonna pay?" And so we sat down and negotiated what they was gonna pay for me to work on the project. Okay. And so I wanted them to do. I'm a paper pusher. People don't know that, but I did paperwork and everything for it and everything, and put it on his desk. And we did the first three. The first three that we did they just blew out the park because they had free radio. Okay, I still was doing my Black Business Expo,
yeah.
And so I had two shows going on. Okay, and then 107 bought 97. And when 107 bought 97, then these new women came in. And when the new women came in, they said, "We don't need no Eric Kelly III."
Wait a minute. Okay. New women came into where? The Expo?
The 107. No. The 107. The 107. When 107 bought 97.
Yeah.
And 107 started looking at all the 97 assets.
Right.
The asset that they saw was women empowerment.
Okay.
And I still was running it. And so what the women said, "You're a man. We can do this." And so I ended up getting ready to sue them because they was taking my intellectual property. But my grandmother said, "There's no need. You've done your part." And so that's the whole deal.
Side of that.
Yeah, and this is the thing about that though, that when I talk to people, I said it really don't cut. It could cut, okay, because they've gone on to 50 years, I think about 40 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I could say it cuts, but I still have to lean on my grandmother, who said to me when I was ready to sue, and I've been in the position of suing people like 4 different times, and she's always told me not to. And is that I created something that changed mankind. I created something that helps people. And she used to say, if you can do something to help people on their way, then your living is not in vain. And so I remember at North Carolina Central University, I designed an eagle that was supposed to be for a T-shirt.
Allegedly.
No.
No, I'm just trying to keep you straight, dude.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep them straight. Don't come for them.
I designed a T-shirt that was for a senior class, TIC senior class. Who was the president? I was the publicity chairman for the student body, and allegedly, it's hard for me to say that because they took the design and they did license plates.
Allegedly.
They did plaques. They did warm-up suits and everything with with my design. And I wanted to sue North Carolina Central University. That's not alleged. I was hot.
Were you working for them?
No, I wasn't working for them. I was on art scholarship. And that's what my grandmother pointed out to me. She said, "Well, where you going to go to school?"
Yeah, you're going to bite the hand that's feeding you.
Yes.
Intellectually.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was one suit that my grandmother was always the steady person for my life. She always, I think what happens in today's society, grandmamas are 35, and grandmothers at our day and age went through the civil rights.
Yeah.
And they went through the issues. She was a a negotiator for the AFL-CIO. She was a negotiator for black people at her plant to get them raises and get the corporation to think about why to give them raises. And so I used to sit in those rooms with her, and it kind of got me to where I'm at today, where I look at things a lot different. I don't look at things like what's going in my pocket. I look at what goes in the whole's pocket, everybody's pocket.
Everybody.
And that has been, that's truly been my superpower, to be able to sit back and think about it before I do something.
All right. So, and I was trying to touch on all these different aspects you have. I know the art is first and foremost right now, because that's just who you are, period. But I wanted everybody to know about, how you touch the community. You're a game changer, innovator, and people say those words, but to be able to just talk about it in detail is a different thing. So I want to make sure people say, "Oh, I didn't know that." Now they know. They can't say they didn't know. We don't have to accuse anybody of anything. We just want them to know about your contribution and what you've done for. You can't even say just for the community, because it's bigger than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of the things when hearing you, one of the things that I think about is not so much of me. I think about the people that were in my space that created the opportunity for me to do what I do.
What was the last part?
I don't think
No. Right? The very last part.
The people.
For you to do that part.
Yes.
Do is an action.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
People can say what they want to say, and you can hear it. Doesn't mean anything if you don't do it. Thank you.
It's just like, and the reason I brought it up, I was thinking about that as I came. How did I get to be Eric Kelly III?
That is a good question. I'd like to know that.
It wasn't. It wasn't that I wanted to be this person. It's just that I was him a long time ago. There's a story about me when I was 3 years old. And when I was 3 years old, I almost died. What happened was there was a pot of pinto beans on the stove in the kitchen. And I was a little bitty kid. I climbed on the stove. Nobody knows how I got to that pot. Okay. And then I sat on the stove and I ate every pinto bean in the in that pot. Remember now, this is olden days, so the pot was a pot. It wasn't no little
big
pot.
Yeah.
And they had to rush me to the hospital. And they had to pump the beans and everything out of my body, or I would have died. And my grandmother used to say, that's the kind of tenacity, and that's the kind of stuff that's in you.
That drive,
That when you want something, you go after it. So when I asked the question, how did I become the Eric Kelly III? My answer is, I look at what's going on. I analyze what it can be. And people would always say that when you put a project on my table, I don't look at that project as a small project. I look at that project as a big project. And most people will say that to me because, just like the Black Business Expo. I did the first one. There were 93 tabletops. My grandmother walks in the door and she said, "This is a nice little show." Okay, remember, never done a show before. Boom.
Right.
I am reduced down to, okay, what didn't I do? Everybody else is cheering me up, but she was saying, okay, what didn't you do?
Right, that's a nice little show.
Yeah, little show. Because I did not do the research to see what a real show was.
Right.
I'm gonna do, like I said with the pot of pinto beans, I'm just gonna do it. And the next year, I spent so much time on research I was in the newspaper walking in shows, and there were pictures of me walking into different shows in Durham until I became the dude that's at everybody's show.
Okay.
And so then when I did my second show, I did Pipe and Drapes. But I didn't do speakers. And I went to North Carolina Central to see Susan Taylor.
Yeah.
And the lines was wrapped around the building. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I sat down and talked to her, and we were just talking, because I'm that guy. I don't come to see you. I come to have a conversation to get something from you that I don't have. And so I was talking to her, and she was like, I was saying, how you have so many people? She said, look, you got to understand, I'm the editor-in-chief of Essence Magazine. People around the world know me. And I was like, whoa, I'm not thinking on that presence of speakers. I'm just thinking about doing an event. And so when she said that, I said, okay, how can I get me some people around the globe that knows people at my show? And the first thing I did was I was watching television, and Tony Brown of Tony Brown's Journal was coming on. And so in the old days, this is what people don't understand. In the old days, when you saw television, the telephone numbers would be up there, the producers and everybody would be up there, and you could call the TV station and say, boom. And so I called Tony Brown's Journal. He picks up the phone.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, Mr. Brown, how much does it cost for you to come and speak? He said $4,000. I said, thank you, and I did click. Okay. Now, many people probably was thinking when I said that sentence that was, in my mind, you said $4,000, so I'm gone. Okay, because remember, $4,000 in those days is probably, I would say, about $10,000 or $15,000 today. Okay, so the reason that I did the click is because of my great-grandfather. He said, find out what you need to know first. He said, never put money first, put the vision first, and you'll get there. So once I knew how much it cost, then I started talking to my companies and corporations about getting Tony Brown to come. Now, GTE at the time wanted Tony Brown to come to Durham. So they paid me $8,000 to bring Tony Brown. So I'm making a $4,000 profit. So when I called Tony Brown back, I said, Mr. Brown, what's your schedule look like in November? He said, it's pretty open. And then he said, but the last time I talked to you, you just hung up on me. I said,
tell me what I wanted to know.
I said, Mr. Brown, that's how I'm old school. I said, I just need to know how much money to bring you here. And so we locked that in, and he came to Durham. And when he came to Durham, the crowds were amazing. But before Tony came, I'm still thinking about how to bring the big crowds. So George Frazier was on the front cover of Black Enterprise magazine. And for people that don't know, George Frazier was not famous. He just was the dude.
Like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. No, not that George Frazier. George Frazier, the networker. Light-skinned George Frazier.
Yeah. Okay.
He was a part of that whole light-skinned and black men that they was putting everywhere.
Right. But okay, hold on, let me stop you there, because I'm trying to give everybody snippets of all of you, all the facets of you. And I know you're going down the rabbit hole, because that's what I normally do. You know we do that. But I want to make sure they get a better idea of who you are, and like I said, all the facets of you. Because like I said, we talked about the artwork. We talked about the author in that upcoming, actually a couple of upcoming books. So now, not pushing what you said aside, that's just one of the other aspects of Eric Kelly III, Dr. Eric Kelly III. I see on here, I say, he a poet.
Oh yeah.
All right. So how'd that happen? How you get into poetry? And to me, is poetry and painting synonymous to you?
Some people say that when you see color, or when you hear music, you see color. It's called synesthesia, I think it's called. The poetry came from my love for this young lady.
That's how it starts.
That's how it starts. When I was in junior high school, there was a class called creative writing, and I just like to write. Okay, and so I was doing some small poems, and then later on in life, I met this lady by the name of, I'm not giving no name.
Thank you.
But I call her the queen of the world. She was one of the most beautiful women I ever met in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. And I wrote some poems to her. And again, I want people to understand this, how my brain works. Me writing a poem to you morphs into me putting music behind it, morphs into me doing a whole CD. Mm-hmm. So I did 3 CDs of poetry to this woman because that's who I am.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a book. It's coming out.
Okay, that's number 3.
Well, it's really I have a library of stuff that has not been done that we're working on.
Okay, hold on, because we had this conversation a while ago, and I got a little upset with you about that, because I get it, because things are probably coming to you at a pretty fast clip in regards to all the creative avenues you're a part of, but you got to finish one, and particularly the books. And the reason why I say that, because this podcast won't be long enough to encompass everything that's you, right?
Not only me, but many people, because they often say the greatest ideas, the greatest books are in the graveyards because we don't finish. And I'm this year is dedicated to finishing several things to ensure that we get some things done. I'm
just going to say one word.
I'm actually after this podcast on Sunday, I'm having a movie producer come into the house who's doing something on my life. I was looking at my iPhone earlier, and I have already laid out all the years of my life with subtitles that we're going to put on video, and then we're going to go back around and start looking at how we can turn this thing into a movie. Right. So these are some of the. I agree with you, but I think sometimes when you're doing so many things, it's hard. But we don't know the day of the hour. But it's just
thank you.
It's just so hard to stop. Just like we talked minutes ago, and I was talking about how the getting the guests to come to be on my audiences,
right?
And never even talked about Black Expo USA, who came to Durham, grabbed me up, and said, "We want to show you the big shows," which was 14 cities, who allowed me to see a bigger picture. And just when you start talking about these books and the things that need to be finished, it's so much. We don't have. I think sometimes we don't even see time. Because it was a moment ago when I did the first expo, and I can see the first expo. It's a moment ago, 20 years ago, when I started doing a new style of painting, and it's been 20 years of that, and now I'm getting ready to move into a whole nother level of abstract paintings that nobody has ever seen before.
All right, so I hear what you're saying. But I got to go back to something you said to me. One of the first things you said when you sat down, you said, "Man, I like the student, what you know, blah, blah, blah." And you said, "Are you still doing your magazines?" Right?
Yes.
And I said, "Bruh, I don't know. I ain't got the time, this, that, and the other." And you checked me on it.
I said, "Yes, right."
You're checked. Completed one of the books. I got plenty of magazines around. There's plenty of them out there, and I still got stacks at home. But you said, "Are you still?" And I was like, "Oh, he got me on that."
And you and that, listen,
we got to get back to it.
Human Landscapes is done. Okay. Behind the Brush is the next book that I'm doing. It's an autobiography. It's going to tell all the dirt. There are the other 7 books are already done. They're not published.
That's done to me.
Yeah, that is where we are today. I'm pressing I believe on Monday I'm gonna press the button of opening up a publishing company so that I can actually publish my stuff.
Okay.
That is, I have a.
You really don't have to do it that way, but I know you want to do it the Eric Kelly way, but you really don't have to.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So when you look at all the things that I had a chance to do, the whole photography piece is a whole entire world of work. The Jim Fields story, we didn't even touch on Jim Fields and the video stuff and me interviewing people way before people was interviewing people.
Right.
Okay, it's a whole world of stuff. The art, we know the art is a word. The business side is a whole world of stuff.
Community activism, we haven't even touched on that yet.
And when I said earlier, I was going into people who, I wanted to kind of say a few things about people who allowed me to do the things that I've done. And I wanted to mention a guy by the name of, he's going on.
Thank you.
My GM at the car dealership, who, when I was a kid, found out that I could draw, and he was a militant Black Power person, and I ended up drawing all the signs for all the protesters in Durham. I used to be on the floats and all that stuff, and I was doing the signs. When he got into corporate America, he began to sell cars and became one of the top GMs in the country. And I got an opportunity to work again for him, who showed me what sales was about. I did 20 cars a month. People don't know this. I did 20 cars a month.
Why is it that they don't know it, Eric?
Well, again, I wasn't in it to tell everybody I was doing 20 cars. I was in it to get to that money so that I could open up Kelly Worldwide.
Right. I'm not talking about then. I'm talking about now. Why is it that people don't know? Why is it? Hold on. Because all right, y'all, we're about to get real because we almost fell out about this a while back because I was upset with him because
I stopped the Black Business Expo.
No, it wasn't even that. It was your artwork, and I was saying, dude, you need to put it online. You need to put it here. This, that. You said, how can you do it for me? No, because like you said, you listen, you learn, you do. And I really wanted to set that fire under you because you had the work. It was a matter of putting it in the marketplace so people could get it worldwide, not just here. Hold on. It's my turn now. It's my turn. I know it's killing you too. But and that's one of the things me and you will usually, we cool, we joke around a lot, but that's one of the things that we kind of butt heads on was like, this guy is a walking treasure trove of creativity, art, humanity, all of this. And you're capturing all this other stuff of people, this, that, and the other, but you got to catalog it. It's one thing to say Eric Kelly III was here. I'm sorry, Dr. Eric Kelly III was here. It's another thing to see the writings of Dr. Eric Kelly III.
I think what and I want to really address this because this is something that has been on my mind. For people that don't know, I am working very, very hard on doing exactly what you're saying now. I remember when the internet started, a good friend of mine had a T3, and he was a part of NASA, and he said to me, I will never forget it. He said, man, you got all this art. You ought to do a site and do an art site. This was way back before the internet, anything blew up. And I didn't take advantage of it. Okay. And I sit down and I look at, that was a missed opportunity. We have not even talked about me dancing. And
yeah.
And no. The reason I brought that up is because I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and I had a television show, and This was the time of the hustle. With I had the white gloves, the whole nine, the tucks and tails, the whole deal. That's who I was, and that was all about it.
I saw you last night.
Oh,
at the party.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So there was I had a television show, and I was living in Birmingham, and the show was in Tuscaloosa, and it was about 30 minutes or 40 minutes away. And every time we would get to the studio right at the time of the show. Okay, so because I was dancing and doing the hustle and those kind of things, I said to the engineer, I said, look, man, I'm dancing on the 4/4 count. I said, is there any way you can change the music and let it run? And I said, it probably would look like a different dance. That was in my head. He said, oh man, let's try it. It was a black guy. And so we did it. And this was before, I gotta tell y'all, before music videos was out. And he did it. And so it gave me an extra 20 minutes to get to the
Studio.
To the studio.
Yeah.
And so this was something that happened, and 20 years later, I looked up and I was sitting there and they was doing this thing on videos and music videos, and they gave the date. And I was like, what? So this when it started, and then I'm like, but I was doing that back then. Your point, and I hope that people get what you just saying. And I got it. I'm working
Finally,
on it.
but yeah.
The word finally is fair. Finally is fair. But I hope people understand what you're saying. It is great to be a legend in your own mind, but you need to be really a legend in your own time.
That part.
And the recorded information is what really is going to supersede you. This is why when I watch all of these documentary on these artists, and I watch these documentaries on these people, and you're sitting there and they're giving their interpretation of what they thought about you.
Right.
And so
that's not fair.
It's not. And so that is what I'm working on right now, because I don't want people to wake up one day and say, well, Eric Kelly was this, and Eric Kelly was that, and Eric Kelly was this. Eric Kelly was a basketball player, but he never played. I never saw him play. Eric Kelly was an artist, but I saw some of his work. Eric Kelly was a dancer. I saw some. No. Who's going to record your life?
Right.
And if you don't take the initiative to work on that, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you need to understand that at my age now, if you look at statistics, I'm not supposed to get past 69. I'm just saying, as black men, we're not supposed to get past 69. I'm 68. So for all practice and purpose, next year's supposed to be my last year on the planet. But we hope that's not true.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you don't take care of your legacy, then your legacy is not going to be taken care of for your family.
It will be interpreted by others.
Yes.
And you don't want that.
That's just like any conversation that you have about people. I'm looking at, and this is the last real story that I want to get out to artists. When I was in school, I was on art scholarship. I was a bad boy. I mean, when I look at my work in college and I look at everybody else's work, I was a bad boy. I was good at this. I was insane about art. That's all I did. And I was told at that time that I was going to be a starving artist. But I was the first on art scholarship. My counselor was a failed artist. So he was projecting on me what he was thinking. I'm a young kid and I'm thinking that this dude know. He know. Not me know. He know.
Yeah.
Okay. And 15 years ago, I was talking to one of my collectors, and my great-grandfather always said to me to only sell my work to collectors and don't give none of my work away. Okay. And so I lived on that. So you won't find my work given away because my great grandfather said they won't respect it, they won't know where it is. Only collectors will. He was a wealthy man, and I am him. And so one of my collectors had just bought a piece for me for $7,000. It was a portrait of him in my new style. And we were talking on the phone. He said, who makes the most money, living artists, black artists today? And so me being in this field, and I told you one of the things, research is very important to me. And so I was just in the field, and I said, where did Kenny Wiley, who's making $500,000 to $1 million painting? And my collector friend says, you don't know nothing, and hung the phone up on me.
Yeah.
And I spent, that was on the Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. I spent from 7 o'clock in the morning after he hung up on me to 9 o'clock that night looking up who in the world was this person. Okay, now, I always ask people the question, and I'll ask your audience, I just want to think about it. How much money do you think that the living black artist right now is making a painting? And most people say, well, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And then when I tell them it's $12 million a painting, then you start thinking about your whole life that just went past you, where somebody told you that you weren't gonna make no money.
Be a starving artist.
You'd be a starving artist. And this guy's making $12 million. And then when you do the research to look at his life from the time that he actually started in art and actually the time that you started in art, and you start looking at the difference between him. One of my friends told me a long time ago, bass player, I'm not gonna mention his name. He said, the difference between you and everybody else, and not just me, I'm just talking about you as a person, is that somebody knows something that you don't know. That's the key. This guy, but I do want to tell the audience who the person is so you can look up this guy. He's tremendous. His name is Mark Bradford. He makes $12 million a painting. And when I found that out, it was the first time that I actually cried as a man. I cried because when you look at somebody else's life and see what they did to get to where they are, and then you look at your life, and I'm not saying I'm better, because I don't believe no artist is better. But when
art is subjective.
Yeah, when you look at your life and what you were able to do and how successful that you were able to do, and then you say, if I took that whole part of my life that's going on and put it in that one space, I would be in the same place. It's not, because it's not about the art. It is about the connections to get to the spaces that he got to.
Right.
And when you sit there and you think about, I wanted to be a basketball player because they was making all the money. I wanted to be a football player. They was making all the money. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do advertising because I could write my own ticket. I wanted to sell cars so I could make some money. I wanted to be a dancer so that I could dance. I wanted to be a singer so that I could sing. My mom's wanted me to be this singer. She fought with me and fought with me and fought with me. And I kept saying, no, I'm going to be an artist, because nobody set me down and said, what you really want to do.
Where's your passion line?
You know, and passion line, but more importantly, what do you really want to do? And one of the things that I was able to do with all the things that I've had an opportunity to do is I was able to understand that art was what I really wanted to do. So when we start talking about catalogs, and I was just talking to a friend of mine about my catalog, and in my catalog I have it by years. And we was looking at the catalog, and I'm looking at the catalog, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, this is not here. This is not in here. This is not in here. And she said, what do you mean? She said, this is the catalog that you sent to me years ago. I said, but when I sent you that catalog, I was just looking at what people have seen, not what people haven't seen.
Right.
And so my catalog is over, I think it's over 3,000 pages of artwork. And so it's like I said, when I found out about Mara Bradford and the $12 million, I cried. And I just want other artists to understand, it's really not about the art, even though it's about the art. It's really about how you network with the people who are in the art realm to get where you're going. There was a lady who was selling her work for $500 a pop at art fairs. And so she decided that she was going to get with the billionaire, and artists, they know who I'm talking about, the billionaire art dealer in New York City. And so she, as a woman, got with him as his girlfriend. Her work at $500 went from $500 to over millions of dollars because of that connection and relationship.
Yeah.
And so what we as people need to look at, who are we connected to? And who are the connections that we need to be connected to get where you're going? That is what, I got you, I heard you.
All right.
I read minds sometimes. That is what and where I am today. When I just did this mural for a very good friend of ours.
Yeah.
And
Incredible work, by the way.
and the mural was supposed to be a simple mural.
Right.
We're saying very, very simple, clean, quick, and out the door.
You don't do simple.
And I turned it into a masterpiece. And when they asked me about why I did what I did, I said, when I leave this planet, somebody's gonna come out here and want to buy this for $12 or $20 million. I said, y'all not thinking about that part. I say, that's what I have to think about with everything I do. So when we have the conversation about who's gonna write your story, that's where I'm at right now. I'm working very hard on making sure and ensuring that I say what's about me so that when people look back, I know my art is gonna transcend.
Yeah.
But I want people to say, this is who this guy was, this is what he did, and you can do the same thing because of how he thought. Because like I said, those things my great-grandfather gave to me were just invaluable, because not only was he a wealthy man, and I'm not saying this to say that this was special about him. He had two families. In the old days,
Yeah.
people had two families. And he always was one of these people who would say to you, let's go. It was never how much money you got, who got money, who can't go. My aunt had, I think, 10 kids at the time. My mama had 6 kids at the time. My grandmother had I come from a family called the Stansel family. My great-great-grandmother had 20 kids. My great-great-grandfather came to the party with 10. So that's 30 kids at family reunions that I used to go to. So I come from this gigantic family of not only people, but personalities and thoughts that puts me where I am today. And that's the key with the Mara Bradford thing.
Okay, so you brought up something that just kind of struck a chord with me, and I think about it, and I talked to my family, I talked to my kids about it, but I never really made it public. But and you could speak to this as well. I feel that anyone, black, white, it doesn't matter your race, culture, or whatever, you have an obligation to live up to your family name.
Whoa.
A lot of people, because like you said Stansels. You say these last names, people may say, oh, shit, he a part of that? Okay, them some good people. People forget that. You need to make sure you honor your family name. When people bring up your family name, it should be with a level of respect, a level of sincerity, or I mean, you can talk about like Billy the Kid or somebody like that. But to give you an example, you hear the word Rockefeller, and I ain't talking about Jay-Z and them.
You talking about you're thinking about money. I think
No, not just money. I'm talking about prestige of a name.
Yes.
And you don't have to be a billionaire, this, that, and the other, but you're bringing honor to your family's name. You could just be a hard worker doing everything right,
so
affecting
critical.
your community.
That
And
is so critical.
I say that to you, and I know you're doing it, but I'm talking about other people. And you need to make sure you're honoring your ancestors and you're honoring that name that you have. It means something.
Let me say something to that people don't think about. They don't think about banning the books. They don't think about why these books are being banned. They don't think about why history is being rewritten. They don't think about why we won't talk about those 7,000 years before the Romans became illiterate. Forget them being a people before they became illiterate, because if you're not illiterate, you're really not intelligent.
No, they weren't literate. Illiterate means you can't read, you can't surmise,
and they couldn't write,
right.
But nobody wants to talk about those 7,000 years. We don't see ourselves as being a lineage of ancient Egyptians. We see ourselves as being in the lineage of slaves. And the sad part to that, when you talk about your name, we don't understand that our family names are so important until, like I said, Stancil. And anywhere I go and I say Stancil, you gonna know it's because we were a gigantic family.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not so much that everybody is great. Nobody's never done a crime. Nobody's never done anything. Right. It's just that there's an obligation for us to tell our story. Because if we don't tell our story, somebody else is going to tell our story. So when you see these books that are being banned and you really dig in and see which books are being banned, it's stories about us as Black people.
Now, keep in mind what you're saying. Books are being banned, right? Burned, banned, but they are written. It's not hearsay.
That's right.
It's written.
That's right.
It's in the scrolls. It's in the tablets. It's on the walls. It's written. It is written. You can't burn a wall.
And the other thing is, and I don't know if we wanted to go down this. This is a whole nother line.
Well, we may have to do a part 2.
This is a whole nother line. People say that the hieroglyphics have been, what's that word? Analyzed, and that the hieroglyphics, people can read the hieroglyphics. And I continue to say it's not even a possibility. And the reason I say it's not a possibility is because now you're talking about me writing a symbol 7,000 years ago. And then you're saying that now, after 7,000 years ago, I know what that sign that guy wrote is. And then I'm going to take what I think, and then I'm going to create a whole language, and I'm going to say, this is what you're saying. And it's just like a book.
That's an interpretation.
There you go. That's just like the book. That comes back to the book of what I do, what you do.
Yeah.
And so please, while you're hitting me in the head with Eric Kelly, when you going to do your book, I'm going to say, Damon, when you going to do your book.
Chronicles of a Knee Baby.
There you go.
That's the name of my book that will be coming out one day soon. I
I
already got the title.
Okay, we need to get the book.
I already started writing,
but
I just didn't talk about it.
And so that's very important, because the chronicles of a knee baby that you're writing about is experiences and things that happen to you as a human entity that nobody don't know. Think about it. This is why it's important for me to do my stuff. This is why it's important for me to be on your podcast, just to lead the snippets of what my life is about, but more importantly, to share with people who don't know me, because I remember a guy told me, these two people told me. One guy said he thought I was in the FBI. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, the way you move, the way you do things, the way that you act. And I was like, no, sir. That's the farthest thing. But in his mind, that's what he thought.
Yeah.
And then another friend of mine, who was in I think it was Iran or Afghanistan, when I was doing the videos with Jim Fields, and we was doing all of the black events all around, and I was doing the Man on the Spot TV show. And the people in Durham that he knew was sending the tapes across the water.
Yeah.
So when he came here, he said, man, I thought you was this big movie star. And I was like, no, I'm not this big movie star. And he said that he had so many tapes that they was playing my tapes as a part of their entertainment over there. And he was saying he couldn't believe the people because I was doing Cornel West.
Yeah.
I was the second guy who did O.J. Simpson after the trial. I was doing Johnny Cochran. I was doing Aretha.
Yeah.
Everybody that was anybody, I was doing them. And a friend of mine said to me, he said, you was doing BET before BET was BET. And I said, I didn't know. Remember what I said earlier. People know something that you don't know. And that's the difference. Because if you think about it for a moment.
Hold on. Say that again.
People know something that you don't know. And that's why
the difference.
That's the difference between them being where they are and you being where you are.
And we're going to stop you right there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the word for the day, because, trust me, we're not done. We're over an hour right now. So
wow.
Yeah, that's why I kept looking out there. Yeah. Great information. Great interview. But this is just part one, y'all. There's going to be a part two, because we're going to have him, do some of his work here in the studio as well. So it's not over. We're going to have Mr. Kelly on here again, and probably more than just once. This is just one of many. I
appreciate it. And one of the things I want to leave today with is my quote. And I want people to think about this when I say this, because this is real. This is what it's gotten me to where I'm at today and continues to propel me in my future. And my quote is, what you're looking for is looking for you.
I remember that.
I want people to not key into who I am. I want them to key into who they are and what they're looking for, and understand that no matter what it is that you're looking for, it's actually looking for you, but you gotta look for the signs. You can't say, you want to be this great star and then you just sit at the house.
Right.
You can't say you want to be this great leader and you just sit at the house. You got to look for the signs, just like this podcast today. I said in this podcast, I said that I am working on pushing my narrative now. And you know me, it's not one, I'm just doing stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, how did I get here? I am looking for ways to push the narrative of my legacy in terms of what I've done on the planet. And that's how this happened. Because for those who don't know, I've been doing the Black Business Network, which is a whole nother conversation with people all over the world speaking on a platform that people don't even know about. Right. And so what you're looking for is looking for you, but you can't just not look for what you're looking for, because we have people who are not looking for anything. But we do have people like yourself, because I remember when you was talking about doing this, and again, I'm always trying to rush people to get it done. Like you say, if you say I'm jumping out of a plane, I'm parachuting. I'm saying let's do it tomorrow. You know.
Yeah.
So not only do I appreciate you having me on the show, I'm honored because you're a friend of mine. But I'm really honored to see your growth as this guy who started here as just doing photography work.
Yeah.
Started here as doing the magazine. Started here dealing with models. Started here just doing what your passion is. And look at where it's morphed to a position of now you're going into the worldwide and global marketplace of not only doing podcasts, but if they just took the time out and you did interviews with everybody that was in the Crush magazine and did just the events that Crush magazine has covered.
Yeah.
We're talking about years of content that's unparalleled.
Yeah, and some of that is coming. I mean, because my boy, he's one of my promoter friends. He said, yo, man, he said, anytime you want to interview some of the artists, I mean, big name artists, I say, I know I got to make sure I got my stuff straight, though. Because I want to be up there half-assing it. You know what I mean? I got to feel comfortable enough. So if I present to somebody who's on that level, they're like, oh, he got his shit together.
He's prepared.
Yeah, so I have to feel like I'm prepared.
But just don't do this.
Uh-oh.
Just don't wait till all the lights turn green before
right.
you come into the damn city.
You're right.
This has been our biggest challenge. Like my great-grandfather used to say to me, don't put money first.
Right.
Because when you put money first, you'll never get to the vision.
Right.
Always put the vision first. And when you put the vision first, you'll always get there. That's why when I say that I'm here because I'm working on a different vision. Mm-hmm. And that vision is to tell my story the way I want my story to be told. And again, as I said, thank you so very much for allowing me to be a part of this podcast. Thank you for being my friend. I'm truly honored.
Yeah, man, it's been some years. Yeah.
And for those who don't know, you did the photography for the Barack Obama show that I did. And it was a traveling show. And I'm going to be honest with you. During that time, I was just thinking what I wanted to do. I didn't have no clue. My brain had said, let's do this, let's do this. And you said, well, come on by the studio and let's shoot it. Came by the studio, shot it, and then did a book.
Yeah.
And then after I did the photos in the book, the next thing I know, I'm traveling around the country with your photography work.
Okay, as long as I get credit, that's all I care about.
But see, people don't get that part. They, like I said, sometimes we have to look at the people that allowed us to be who we are. The Jim Fields, the Bill Cherries, I'm not supposed to name names. The Ken Beckfords and all these guys. These are icons that they probably didn't tell their story.
Right. And their story is being told by someone else.
There you go.
And we don't want that. We don't want that. So yeah, and I know people say, well, you know, everything lives on the internet. Yeah, but what version's out there?
There you go.
You know, so this is one of those platforms where, you know, you get the story straight from the actual person.
And that's real.
You know, so like I said, we appreciate you guys tuning in. One more thing I would like to say, you're going to kill me on this one, but let people know how they could get in contact with you.
Well, you can get in contact with me and get the most present information by going to erickellymuseum.org. erickellymuseum.org will have the library of my books. It will have my artwork. It will have a taste of the Black Business Olympics there also. Okay. It will also have my book on sales. I have a method that teaches people how to sell anything to anybody at any time. And then people can reach me at erickelly45@gmail. That's my personal email. I look at that every day. They also can reach me if they want to call me on the phone. I know people don't like to give their telephone number out. But you can find my number. It's 919-308-9090. That's in the event that you want some of my art. If you want me to come and speak. And one of the things that I'm doing the end of the year is I'm doing a conference called Your Operating System, How You Operate.
And they can find that where?
They'll find it on the museum site. Everything's on the museum site. I pushed everything to the museum site because the museum site.
And what is it called? Spell it out.
It's called Eric, ERIC, KELLY, Museum, MUSEUM.
It'll be right there. Yep.
.org.
.org.
And you can, and if you want to find me, I'm Googleable.
All right.
If you put Eric Kelly III in there, there's another Eric Kelly who's a boxer.
Yeah.
There's another Eric Kelly who's a dentist. But if you put Eric Kelly III in there, it goes to all of my stuff. And,
all right.
And again, thank you so very much for allowing me this moment in time to spend some time with you.
Sure thing, my brother. Sure thing. We'll be doing this again. And we're going to end it with we always go out with a song. So we're going to end it with a song just so, it'll end appropriately. Why is he playing this song? Because it's Ron Isley, Elder Barge, and Earth, Wind, and Fire. All on one song.
That's awesome.
That's a fair compromise, right? Oh, come on, man. All right, y'all.
Hey, look,
y'all have a great weekend. Great work week. We'll talk to you later.
Yes, indeed.
Peace, man.
Peace.
All right.
Bye-bye.
That was a good compromise. What are you talking about?
It is.
Yeah, 'cause I was going to play just straight Isley, bro.
I know.
It's BlackOpps Entertainment. Yeah. The podcast. Your #1 entertainment podcast on the net.